I'd done an interview in England when I got back from the States after living there for a while. And the guy said, well, you know, this heavy metal that you play. I went, heavy metal, what's that? He said, that's what you play. I said, no, I said, we're a heavy rock band. He went, no, you're heavy metal.
And they just gave you that label?
That label, and I've always said for years, you know, we're heavy rock, but I gave in the end. All right, we're heavy metal, that'll do.
What's up, kids and retards? I'm here with the illustrious Doctor of Fucks from the Eternal Idols channel, as many of you know, the patrician Black Sabbath fan. So today, we're going to be starting a very lengthy retrospective, probably in 3, 2, 4, how many fucking parts it's going to be. But we got a lot to conquer here. We got to start with the early stuff first. The very first metal band of all time, arguably. I know Ralph thinks so, and I got to agree with him. Black Sabbath is the first metal band of all time.
Yeah, fuck Blue Cheer. I mean, to me, Black Sabbath is technically the first metal band, but I think Judas Priest took it to a more 24/7 metal. But still, it doesn't take away the fact that Black Sabbath was doing things that nobody was doing at the time. It was all hippie, you know, flower power, this and that. These guys knew nothing about it because they came from Birmingham, England, that still had buildings ripped apart from World War II, never cleaned up. They lived a really hard life. Nobody can make Black Sabbath except those four. I love the Dio era. I love every era. I even love the Tony Iommi, Tony Martin era. But there's something about the Ozzy era. All this shit we're going to talk about, the 70s, it was organic.
I worked in a factory doing welding and stuff. It's really peculiar because I was going to leave the job that day. I just joined a band and we were going to tour Germany and whatever else. So it was my last day, if you like, and there was nothing for me to do. They said, well, the person that cuts the sheet metal wasn't in that day, and so they said, would you cut it, because you can't, otherwise you got nothing to do. So they put me on this sheet metal machine that comes down and chops and bends metal. Of course, I had not a clue about it, I'd never worked on it before. And I got my hand in, it just went straight down. And of course, as I pulled my hand back, I took the two ends off. So after that happened, of course, that blew everything. I was just devastated. I thought I went into such a deep depression. And so I made my own tips. I got a washing up bottle, a plastic bottle, and melted it down into a ball. And then I got a hot soldering iron and would drill a hole out in it and fit it over my finger. So there's this big ball on my finger. And so I used to experiment a lot of trying different things to make it sort of a bigger sound. I play closer together. He played the same sort of thing as me and bend the strings a bit, make it fatter. It went on from that to tuning down and using thicker strings, but tuning down. And just trying different ideas, you know, to create a different sound. And I think it worked.
If you think about it, if that never happened, would he have that same sound?
I don't think so, because especially on some of the later albums when he really starts like to do like shredding and stuff, it has this like really weird sound to it.
I mean, we did skip upon it, which I think is a very important part of Black Sabbath history. Was, you know, we all know they were called Earth, and he got offered a gig with Jethro Tull, and he took it, and Jethro Tull was an up-and-coming band. They were even on a rare performance as them on the Rolling Stones Circus, whatever it's called. You can see it on YouTube. Tony Iommi with Jethro Tull, and he was just like, you know what, guy? He quit the band to go back to Black Sabbath. Very commendable to go back to an uncertain band while you're in a band that's on the rise. And,
yeah.
And then he went to go form history.
There was a knock on the front door. My brother answered it, and he came in. He says, "There's something at the door that wants to see you." And then, what do you mean something? And he says, "Well, go and have a look." And I went out to the front door, and there was a skinhead with this like big long gown on. His dad worked at Lucas's, the car factory, and he used to wear these big brown gowns. And he had this big gown on, a chimney brush over his shoulder, no shoes on, and a pump, what we used to call pumps, sneakers or trainers or whatever, on a dog lead. And he went, "Hello, I'm Ozzy." And he's like, "Oh, no."
In the beginning, is it true that when you were forming Black Sabbath, you were looking for a lead singer and spotted an ad from Ozzy Osbourne in a music store?
It is, yes.
Is that the way, is that true?
Yes, it is true. I mean, Ozzy was at school in a younger year than me.
Yeah.
With me. But I didn't really associate with him at school. And we were looking for a singer, Bill and myself, the drummer, and we went around the music shop and we saw this ad, Ozzy Zig requires gig.
Oh.
I said to Bill, I know an Ozzy. I said, but it can't be him.
Can't be the same guy.
And sure enough, we went round to the address of the house and knocked the door, and his mother came. "John, it's for you." Yeah. And I saw him walking up the hall, and I said to Bill, "Forget it." Anyway, he came to the door, and we talked to him for a bit, and then we left. And I said to Bill, "Oh, forget that." You know, I said, we don't want to go there. I said, as far as I know, he can't sing. I never knew he could sing.
Yep.
And then sort of a few days later, Ozzy came round to my house. So I didn't live that far away from him. He came round with Geezer, the bass player, and looking for a drummer. And it turns out that I said, "Well, Bill's a drummer." And Bill said, "No, I'm sticking with you."
Yeah.
And so we said, "Well, why don't we all get together and have a go?" And we ended up the four of us, Bill, Ozzy and Geezer and myself. Well, we went along with the name Earth for a while. And then we couldn't get much work at all because we were doing all blues, so we only could do a certain amount of blues club. Black Sabbath from a 1935 horror film, Boris Karloff film. And it was Geezer that came up with the idea of the name. Call ourselves Black Sabbath. Nobody else will have that name, you know, that's why it was.
He said, "Isn't it weird that people like to pay money to get scared? Why don't we start writing kind of scary music?"
My folks have got one of these old great big radiograms. I says, "Mum, I made a record." I was just so happy that I'd made a record, you know. So I hadn't heard all the bells and all this stuff that had been added on. So I put the record on, and it starts with this thunder and the bells and the rain. I'm thinking I've given me the wrong record, you know. And then the music starts, and my folks are ready to do a knees-up beer drinking song, you know. And my father turned around to me and said, "Son, I'm going to ask you a question, and you've got to be honest to me." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you sure you're just drinking alcohol?" I says, "Yeah. Why? What's the matter?" He said, "This is very odd music."
So the first album was released on Friday the 13th, and it was recorded, some people say in 1 day, 2 days. One day it was recorded live, the other day it was added overdubs.
We just got in the van, put our equipment in, went down to this Region Sound, which was 2 4-track machines. We recorded the whole thing in 12 hours, stripped the gear down, got in the back of the van and drove it to the ferry, and we thought that's the way people make records, you know. 12 hours, bang, it didn't cost 900 quid.
But it was released in the perfect time, Friday the 13th. I mean, with that creepy-ass album cover. Do they even know who the lady was on that album cover?
No, but it is an eerie thing. And next year, man, if everything goes as planned, I will be standing in front of that house.
That'd be perfect.
First album, holy shit, yeah, historic. Thunder comes in the beginning. Have you ever heard that amazing song called Metal Massacre, The Ultimate Revenge by Thrasher Die? That's, I start the song saying, damn, I even forgot my lyrics. Friday, 13th, 1970, February gave it birth. I forgot the rest. But yeah, I talk about the Thunder and Lightning. Comes in with the big, bombastic, doomy riff. And that right there is the birth of heavy metal. And it's an amazing album. It's more blues-based. Like every band, they didn't really find their feet till later on, but the genesis was there. It wasn't proto-metal, it was metal. And Oh my God, Ozzy's eerie vocals, Ozzy's eerie lyrics. Yes, Ozzy wrote the lyrics to the song Black Sabbath.
At the time, I was seriously into cult stuff and black magic and all that kind of thing. I had this little apartment, which I'd painted black and had all these upside-down crosses all around the place, pictures of Satan everywhere. And Ozzy brought this book around for me, and it's like this really old 15th century, like, old book. And it was all written in Latin. It was all about black magic. It had all these, like, drawings of Satan and everything in it. And I just had a really weird feeling about it. And that same night, I woke up in the middle of this horrible nightmare, and I just saw this, like, black shape at the bottom of my bed, just, like, staring at me. It was like a black, malevolent thing. It was a horrible feeling of it. And I just totally freaked out. And I told Ozzy about it, and he came up with the lyrics to Black Sabbath.
The big thing for Tony Iommi was the discovery of the Devil's Third. Da, da, da. That very close movement in the music was literally banned in medieval times because they thought, it's a fact, they thought that it conjured the devil.
A lot of people try to call Black Sabbath satanic. Black Sabbath was almost like they were warding off evil. That's why they always had crosses.
Ozzy's father had given us the crosses, which were the original Sabbath crosses, and there's nothing upside down about those crosses, and he'd given us those because he believed they're in a higher power, and he believed that the crosses might help us on our many journeys. You know, this is Ozzy's father, Jack, and Jack was concerned about making sure that we were all safe and sound.
What is up with the American versions of the first two albums? They like combine a bunch of songs and then like add weird like additional titles.
Track NIB. The song was about the devil falling in love and totally changing, becoming a good person. Everything. He actually falls in love with a human being and totally changes his identity. And the name of the song, NIB, didn't have anything to do with it. In fact, it was called Nib at first, and that came because Bill Ward, the drummer's beard, it used to look like a pen nib.
And I said, I looked at Bill Ward and he had this big long beard. And I said, you look like a pen nib. I was stoned. And I said, well, what are you going to call this new song? And I go, NIB.
And then somebody put 3 dots behind it. And then everybody called it Nativity in Black.
Oh yeah! Follow me now and you will not regret.
It's hard for me to pinpoint my favorite track, but man, if you was to say to me, you can only pick one song to listen to for the rest of your life off this album, oddly enough, it would be the cover of Warning. Because I absolutely love the way that album is.
It almost seems like at one point in the middle of the song when Iommi's just shredding for eternity, it sounds like the rest of the members just kind of went outside for a smoke and he just kept going. And they came back, oh, well, he's still going. I guess we better come back in here, you know. And then they just jump back in randomly.
Cool, though, the little jazzy things he does in there, the ripping, all that shit, and that down, forget it. And, you know, I'm not the biggest fans of guitar solos on albums, but that one works fine with me. It's scary. I mean, dude, to this day, the song Black Sabbath creeps me out. It's still creepy to me.
Oh, yeah. Several songs in there. I mean, even like the beginning of Sleeping Village creeps the fuck out of me.
Oh, yeah. When I listen to the beginning of Sleeping Village, I get the imagery of that fucking album cover.
Red sun rising in the sky. Sleeping Village, cockles cry.
Black Sabbath first album, absolute classic, but honestly, they only get heavier and, in my opinion, better from this point on.
Paranoid was supposed to be called War Pigs. That explains the terrible album cover.
Yeah, the album cover has like some sort of like, what is it, like a police officer or guy with a sword? I can't even tell.
The War Pig. You know, he's dressed in pink with a sword. It's supposed to be War Pig.
We were in the studio to write an album, the Paranoid album, which was going to be originally called War Pigs, but that's why the cover was with a chap with a sword and a shield. But they banned it from being called War Pigs, so we called it Paranoid, which had nothing to do with the cover at all. But anyway, yeah, we went in to record the album, and in the lunch break, I didn't go out to eat with the others, I just stayed at home, stayed at the studio, just came up with this riff, this Paranoid, and when everybody came back, I said, well, let's just put this down, so we put it down, and that was it. It wasn't intended as a single or anything, it was just another one for the album.
Yeah. Paranoid is like, oh my God, I'm beyond burnt out on it. You put it on, War Pigs comes on. Oh man, I'm beyond burnt out on this song. And then it starts playing, you're like, fuck yeah, this is great. You know, so even burnt out shit still sounds fresh and new listening to it for the millionth time. So Paranoid may be the one I play the least, but it's a damn fine album.
Just the other day, when like Iron Man came on the radio, as usual, you hear Iron Man, Paranoid, and War Pigs on the radio on regular rotation every freaking day. But then I really thought about it. Why is this on the radio? Like, not in a, it sucks, why am I hearing this type of way, but the song Iron Man itself is so heavy, non-commercial, and even progressive at points. Why did this ever blow up and become such a hit? It's so bizarre.
It was huge when I was a little kid. Like, I'll never forget, you know, back in the day, get off my lawn, you'd go to, you know, if you had nosebleeds back in the day, everybody took binoculars to shows. And when I was at the Mob Rules, I saw the Mob Rules store, and I'm in the nosebleeds, and it's like burnt out old guys like, hey man, is it okay if I borrow your binoculars during Iron Man? If you really listen to the lyrics of the song, Bill Ward is a fucking genius because it's about Iron Man, Rusty, and this. The way Bill Ward plays that song is clunky. It sounds like, you know, he's playing it like, you know, a guy's like fumbling trying to walk. Ward, to me, is definitely the unsung hero of Black Sabbath. What he did in that band, drum-wise, you couldn't get a better drummer for Black Sabbath. He was unorthodox. He was jazzy. He was all over the place, and again, it adds to that organic feel to the original Sabbath. Because if you fast forward to Heaven and Hell, that doesn't sound like Bill Ward to me. I mean, he's always in the pocket during Heaven and Hell. Here, he's just all over the place, and he makes it work. That to me is why Black Sabbath to me is the best band in the world. The best rhythm section, hands down.
The last one was dabbling in metal, but was mostly blues. This one's more like dabbling a lot more in metal, hard rock, and even jazz. Like, for instance, you have Rat Salad, which is just a crazy jazzy attack of Bill Ward, which is like his own version of, obviously everyone knows, Led Zeppelin's classic drum solo from John Bonham, you know, Moby Dick. Rat Salad annihilates boring ass Moby Dick. I mean, come on, the riffs are better, the soloing is crazy from Tony Iommi, and the drumming's way cooler and more creative.
Yeah, I love Moby Dick, but yeah, come on.
Well, I like Moby Dick too, but Rat Salad, which is funny because Van Halen was supposed to be called Rat Salad at one point. What's weird about South is that I would actually say that they're almost in retrospective metal, because think about this, all the bands that copied them that were like now considered doom metal and stoner doom metal and stuff like that, like Electric Wizard and Candlemass and shit like that. Complete rip-offs of albums like Paranoid and especially Master of Reality all the way through. And Electric Funeral has got to be the most epic fucking doom metal song ever created. But my favorite part is not like the typical parts of the song, but when they go crazy in the middle section of the song, that is the greatest Black Sabbath part of any song ever. That to me is the ultimate just metal song. Both War Pigs and Hand of Doom kind of try to go into societal and political and even wartime problems, you know, discussing Vietnam, the effects of Vietnam and war with like Hand of Doom, how that'll have long-term effects on your psyche of going to war and stuff like that. That's the stuff that people really wanted to hear, you know. Those people that are coming back from the war, they didn't want to hear that life was all good. They're like, hey, I am having like nightmares all the time about what I've witnessed, and this band gets it. They didn't even see it, but they get it.
There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vets coming in to the shows, and they were in wheelchairs, and you know, they would have like a flag on their wheelchair. And when we played War Pigs, God bless them, nearly to a man, they all stood up, and they were being held up in their wheelchairs. And when you see that, you don't forget that.
And not only them, the masses got it. You know, I mean, Black Sabbath was huge right off the bat. I mean, when the first album came out, went way up on the
We were
chart.
driving down the motorway and the album charts come on and we were in it. Bloody hell, we couldn't believe it, you know. We got the radio on. God, we were all excited, you know. It got in the top 20. Yeah.
Paranoid got them huge in the United States. People really connected to Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath, like a lot of our favorite bands, were harshly panned by critics. I mean, they hated them, but they were a people's band. It's kind of like, you know, sometimes when I hear, you know, because I'm an older guy, if I hear like some grindcore shit, I feel like that Country Joe and the Fish guy. I don't get it, but I understand. Youth get it.
And of course, the first question that was asked was, why these people in the charts? Because we were so underground.
Press absolutely hated us. The press that was based in London. Couldn't stand us because like we were getting all this massive big following in the rest of England without ever going to London. All the reviews are like absolutely atrocious.
And another thing you've got to talk about, you know, like when you listen to Paranoid, every single Black Sabbath song in the 70s, the vocals were so unique. The structure of the melodies were so unique. Ozzy didn't write most of these lyrics, but have you ever heard the scat vocals to Paranoid?
No.
All right, it's Ozzy going, yeah, baby, I love you, baby, yeah, you know, he's just scatting all these horrible lyrics because it's nothing he wrote. He's just talking into the microphone, doing this melodic shit. And then Geezer would go and write lyrics to it. And a lot of people, Ozzy's talentless, he doesn't do it. It takes a lot. Look, I'm in a band. I know this, man. A big selling point to songs are melodies, the vocal melodies to Black Sabbath. And then you have like complete idiots that want to argue with you going, yeah, it takes a lot of talent to sing along with a riff like, yeah, Liar Man. It's like, dude, name me another goddamn song where Ozzy sings to a riff. And another little tidbit, there was nobody headbanging before Ozzy Osbourne, the original headbanger. Thank you.
I just want to make quick mention of the song War Pigs was actually originally supposed to be called Walpurgis.
Where you can hear the original version on, is it the Ozman Comet?
Yes, that's the Ozzy Osbourne compilation where they have a couple old Black Sabbath demos, and they have a demo that was written, I believe, the same time as the first album.
And that one is like Cast a Priest into the Fire. It was a total satanic song. And something we forgot to mention, on the first album, the gatefold has an inverted cross that, according to them, they had nothing to do with. There was the record company. But that's what spurred off the whole, they're satanic, you know?
I just want to make quick mention that the song Planet Caravan, although they were trying to get away from like the hippy dippy bullshit, on that song they kind of made that connection with the song that you could just basically destroy your brain cells by smoking yourself retarded to, with like all the bongos and like beautiful guitar playing. And I, for the longest time, did not think that was actually Ozzy singing.
I mean, for years I didn't think that was Ozzy till the internet. You know, until Bill Ward said, no, that's not me. Because everybody thought it was Bill Ward.
Literally be jamming away, and he'd be jamming as well, singing along to everything. And he was just, I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit for what a talent that he had, like for just coming out with these like incredible vocal lines, just out of the air.
Now we move on to the absolute heaviest of the first three albums.
Black Sabbath was done in 2 days, and Paranoid was five days to a week. It took us to do that, finish it. But Massive Reality was quite a different thing. That took a lot longer. That's when we started getting into long time for us. It was going into weeks, and we thought, oh God, this is taking a bit long.
This, in retrospect, is the archetype of doom metal itself. Every song, even the opening track, Sweet Leaf, which to me it just doesn't sound right as an opening song.
What song on Master of Reality would have been a better opener for you?
Children of the Grave.
Good choice.
Now, at this time, they were starting to live the excesses of becoming a huge band, especially with Paranoid blowing up the charts. Now they're getting shitloads of people at their shows. That means sex, drugs, rock and roll. And they went down the rabbit hole of getting really fucking high in this era. Not in the cocaine mountains yet, but as you hear from the beginning of the first song on here, Sweet Leaf, that's Tony Iommi smoking a gigantic blunt, coughing like a motherfucker.
See, I didn't know that. I knew that was Tony Iommi coughing, but I didn't know he was coughing off a joint.
Well, what do you do to relax?
Smoke marijuana.
You were joking when you said that, of course.
Yeah, right.
And then, as you said earlier, you have a song on here that's actually about, you know, religion, stuff like that, After Forever.
And a lot of people, see, that's the funny thing. A lot of people focus on that. Look, they're satanic, but they don't listen to the rest. Or they do listen to the rest, and they're like, nah, 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 nah. He talked about the Pope on a rope, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? In the power of Black Sabbath, the sheer power and influence on them. Look what they're singing about God, and then now you have all these satanic bands cite Black Sabbath as a huge influence on them. That says a lot, man. You ain't gonna see like fucking black metal bands talking about, oh yeah, I love Black Sabbath because they sung about God.
When you think about death, do you lose your breath or do you feel your cool? Would you like to see the Pope on the end of a rope? Do you think he's a fool?
Now, on this album, you have 3 really heavy songs on here. I mean, really heavy. I mean, Tony Iommi went as far to down tune on this to get a really heavy, dark sound. You got Into the Void, and then you have Lord of this World, and of course, Children of the Grave.
Yeah, well, it is my all-time favorite Black Sabbath song, is Children of the Grave. It's the most bombastic, just the way it builds up. You can feel something coming. When the band kicks in all full force, that shit is like, look, I don't know if you can make it out. Even my hair is standing up just talking about this shit. It is so good, and it's so And I love the ending with the whispering children, with the feedback of Iommi. It makes it extremely eerie and scary and fucking amazing. God damn, I love that song. That song is my favorite song from my favorite band, Children of the Grave. And it's cool that it's well known, you know? Usually, you know, everybody wants to be, you know, countercultural, and they'll say, the best Black Sabbath song is Megalomania, which I would agree is like my second favorite, but it's a very deep track. This one's kind of well known. It's like the only of the 3 songs Ozzy would play when he left Black Sabbath when he was with Randy Rhoads was Paranoid, Paranoid, Iron Man, and Children of the Grave. It's a beyond epic tune, and I, you know what, I was always happy with the way it started with Sweet Leaf. I never had a problem with it, but man, now you mention it, man, imagine if the album started like that. Holy shit.
What I always loved about the song is how not only is Bill Ward already kicking ass on it, but he does a bunch of like really cool overdubs where it sounds like rocks are falling off a mountain or some shit. It's really cool. After that, they decided to celebrate and snort an entire mountain of cocaine, or as Ozzy would say, cocaine!
We hired this massive big mansion in Bel Air. I mean, we had, I think, every pusher in LA was there. They were coming up every day. We were literally buying soapbox cartons full of cocaine and just like emptying them out on this big table, this like big communal table in the living room, and just like doing tons of coke all the time, and going like writing the stuff and going to the studio, recording it, coming back, doing more coke, and just doing all every drug you could imagine. We did it in that particular time.
The thing that's funny about Volume 4 during this time, Black Sabbath is known for just going in the studio, sometimes recording the whole thing live in one go. But with this time, they got too distracted. They were fucking around a lot of the time. And I wouldn't say it badly translates into the album, but you can kind of hear how on the album, it's not necessarily in the same direction, whereas like Master of Reality, a lot of the album's kind of in the same direction. This album, they're taking a lot of interesting turns, but I think it's actually for the better. It's kind of them being more creative. I'd say being pretty experimental at the time. You have some, I'd say like stoner hippie rock stuff with like Wheels of Confusion. And you got, of course, the heavy shit, which are the better songs in the album, like Under the Sun, and my favorite, the crazy, ridiculous drumming on Cornucopia, which almost got Bill Ward fired. As it stands to me, Cornucopia is Bill Ward's drumming achievement, one of the absolute best. And not only is Bill Ward the unsung hero of Sabbath, this is like the unsung song of their discography of like the early stuff.
Too much near the truth, they say. Keep it till another day. Let them have their little game. Illusion helps to keep them safe.
And then you have some really weird songs in here. I mean, you have like your typical Tony Iommi cool acoustic piece like Laguna Sunrise, which is awesome. But then you have some really weird stuff like St. Vitus Dance, which there'd be later a band named after this song, St. Vitus, which is in the same vein of this early Sabbath stuff. Very good band. And then you have the weirdest one in here, well, other than FX, but that doesn't really count, but Changes, which is, as many Sabbath fans feel, a song that they kind of can't get into at first, but then, man, when you get into Changes, is it one of the most emotional songs that you could ever just attach to, no matter who you are.
It's just a beautiful song. It's haunting. It's sad. Have you ever heard, man, now I can't remember the guy's name. This older black guy, he passed away. He did a cover of it. You have to see this. There's this old Like, it's a soul singer. And the story behind
I think I have seen that. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
it's gut wrenching, man. The way he sings it, and what makes it even more gut wrenching is the story behind it. He didn't know nothing about Black Sabbath at all. It was some guy, I guess the producer or somebody recording the album, suggested they record this song. So he gave him the song to listen to. And while he was listening to the song, his phone rang and he found out his mother died. And he went right in the studio grieving his mother's death. I mean, literally the day his mother died. Went to the studio and sang this song in this really soulful, emotional. I mean, I have to say, it's even more emotional than the Sabbath cover. But it shows you the beauty of Sabbath. You know, you have this little piano ballad with the weird strings and everything. And this guy turned it into a soul song that is even more gut-wrenching. And to know the story behind it is amazing.
I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. Lord, it hurts so bad.
Yeah, Changes is the shit, man. Super novel. You know, Under the Sun. This whole, again, yeah, it is my favorite Black Sabbath album. And man, during this whole insanity, you have Laguna Sunrise. Because you listen to that song, I mean, at least for me, it really does take me to that place, to like early morning watching the sunrise in some spooky lagoon, you know? It's just beautiful. It's a masterpiece, you know? And I think, you know, shit like Laguna Sunrise, to me at least, would not fit on any other album unless it's an original 4 album, because it really does enhance. To me, it enhances Volume 4 so much, and I think it is kind of like the component that makes it my favorite album, because it just takes this total turn into this beautiful, spooky acoustic shit. And what can I say? I can go on and on about this album.
And during this time, they decided to pull a prank that almost killed Bill Ward, where they covered him head to toe in gold paint, because the guy that was actually renting the place was also a painter.
And this is also the first album they recorded in LA where, you know, they got abundant on cocaine, and they wanted to call the album Snowblind.
But the record company said that's not a good idea. And by the way, Ozzy, would you stop recording the song Snowblind by screaming cocaine every 5 seconds? Like, just do it once and stop.
You have to listen good to hear him say it.
Yeah. They really wanted to hide that. It was a little too controversial. I mean, they could sing about war atrocities and Satan, but cocaine, that's a little too far there, buddy.
Yep. And but fuck, when they played it live, nobody stopped him. He loved screaming cocaine, you know.
Tony Iommi was having major issues with drugs while on this tour, and at one gig he actually collapsed when he walked off stage.
One thing I got to talk about, because of this album cover, was the reason Tony Iommi made Ozzy stand to the side of the stage, because he hated this album cover. And Tony Iommi was an egomaniac, so he took center stage because he was pissed off the record company put him on the album cover. I absolutely love it, you know. I mean, it's simple. Not like your basic, you know, album cover, but it's fucking awesome. I love it. It's not something you look at and say, wow, that's amazing. It's just like, whatever. Then you hear the album and you look at that album cover and you're like, yeah, dude, fuck yeah, Ozzy's the man. Ozzy is the man, you know. I mean, basically, Ozzy's the front man. Ozzy was the guy that would yell, get the fuck up, you know, come on. You know, if the crowd wasn't giving him that energy, Ozzy would yell at them, you know, and make them get into it. And back then, as far as I know, there was no singer like that. And he's one of us, man. That's one thing. That's why Ozzy is so popular, is because he really does have that You know, I'm not no fucking special god. He does come off as dumb as a box of rocks, and you know, to me that really identifies with the audience. You know, he's one of us.
Again, we went over to LA. We'd done the same procedure we did with Volume 4, but it didn't work on Sabotage Sabbath. We went over, rented a house for 6 months, and went over there, and same house and everything. It just didn't work. We couldn't get the same atmosphere, and we couldn't write. I thought, if I don't come up with anything, we don't do anything, because they were waiting for an initial riff, and without the initial riff, what do you do? Because we were a riff-based band, you know.
I just didn't know what the hell to write about anymore. I mean, it's like album after album. I was trying to get away from all the black magic and all that cobblers like that we were supposed to be associated with. And I never got any help. It was just from anybody. I mean, it was just like, in the old days, Ozzy'd like come out with like titles, or he'd come out with a chorus line, and that gave me inspiration to write the rest of the song. And all that had dried up.
So we ended up coming back to England and went to Clearwell Castle in Wales and wrote Sabotage Sabbath.
So the band was having inspiration issues, kind of like they were with Volume 4. They're getting distracted. This time it was like getting ridiculous. They couldn't do anything. They're fighting each other. It was a mess. So they said, fuck it, let's have a getaway in a haunted castle.
We used to rehearse in the dungeons, which was the dungeons of the castle. And one day we were in this one room, we had a big fire going. And Ozzy fell asleep on the couch. And we walked out and we got out. Anyway, a piece of coal fell out and when I caught on fire, and of course Ozzy managed to get out. And I think later on that day, we saw this, we walked out down the passage, and there was an armoury on the left as we walked down, on the right as we walked down. And we saw this figure coming towards us, and then go into this armoury. And we thought, who's this guy like? And so we went into this armoury, Ozzy and myself. Of course, there was nobody there. The door's locked from the inside at the other end. And we thought, God, that's strange. We really, I've got to be honest, we frightened the life out of each other. We had to leave in the end. Everybody terrified each other because we were playing jokes on each other. Nobody knew who was doing it, you know, and it just got ridiculous. So we used to leave and drive all the way home and drive back the next day.
Tony Iommi just cranks out Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, National Acrobat. I mean, goddamn. But what's weird is I feel like this album is like a mix of like the heaviest, darkest shit, and then like progressive rock, like really pretty stuff like Spiral Architect and stuff like that. That's like really different for Black Sabbath.
Masterpiece.
What's funny about the song Spiral Architect is that it actually features a giant orchestra that they couldn't even fit in the studio, so they all had to be taken outside to record it. And Ozzy tried to explain to them what he wanted them to play, but he didn't know how to read or write music, so he just hummed what he wanted them to play, and they're all just like, okay, and they figured it out.
Of all the things I value most of all, I look upon my earth and feel the warmth and know that it is good.
And then in my opinion, you got like the best songs in the middle of the album with stuff like my favorite song, Sabracadabra.
You know, it's this really heavy, sporadic song, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's a power ballad type lyrics. It's a pure love song.
Yeah.
It's crazy fucking music, but it's a love song. And I mean, it's a blatant love song, but it's hard to tell because of the music going on around it. And it's just, yeah, that's probably the most insane song on the album.
My favorite part of the song Sabracadabra has got to be the fact that one of the all-time greatest keyboard players of all time, Rick Wakeman, makes a guest appearance on this. And my favorite part of the song especially is the Anymore part, and he just comes in, they do like the crazy jig with the fucking piano going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That is the most rockin' shit ever. the members of Led Zeppelin showed up in the studio with Black Sabbath to jam with them because they were very good friends. And John Bonham was adamant that he wanted to play drums on Sabracadabra, but they all agreed to just do a random improvised jam instead.
Killing Yourself to Live, you know, that little smoke it, get high. That's so cool, man. And I even love the fucking weird ass Who Are You? I just think the whole fucking album's a masterpiece. And there are times I think, you know what, this is my favorite Sabbath album. But most of the time I'm like, nah, man, it's Volume 4. But I will say without a doubt, it's the goddamn greatest Black Sabbath album cover, hands down.
The painting was like a double painting. Of course, you have the back cover, which is a guy dying, and everyone's kind of like mourning around him.
There's an actual picture of that painting. That painting was based on a picture of a guy dying in bed with his family around him. And I mean, it's the same poses, like the wife kind of crying and people looking on, and the guy looks identical with the mustache. He looks like he's dying in bed. It's an actual picture of a guy in his deathbed. And then they drew all the satanic shit around it, you know?
Didn't the song Who Are You, wasn't that written by Ozzy?
Yeah, that was written by Ozzy, and I could be wrong, but I think that's even Ozzy on the keyboard. I could be wrong, though. But yeah, Ozzy did write the lyrics to that. Ozzy also wrote the lyrics to Fairy Wears Boots. And there's other songs that Ozzy wrote that I'm not aware of prior to this, too. But yeah, you know, everybody says Ozzy never wrote any lyrics. It's like, bro, he wrote the lyrics to the very first heavy metal song. Shut up. You know?
Didn't he write the music to Who Are You as well?
Huh?
I think he may have wrote the music to Who Are You as well, because
I think you're right too. I think he had everything to do with that song. Maybe not the guitar and drum parts. But
it's such a simplistic song, but it's like one of the darkest, heaviest, creepiest ones on there. It's so perfect.
And again, it's kind of like not that much a pro-God song. It's kind of like, are you for real? Do you really exist? That's what the song means. Like, who are you? You know, you're so mysterious. Show yourself. You know, it's kind of like questioning if God was real. And yeah, it's awesome. And it's a lot of people don't like that song. A lot of people find it a little too out there, you know, but man, I dig it. Man, I dig when Sabbath does these weird fucking tunes, which they didn't think about it. After Ozzy, Viera, they stopped doing weird songs like that.
Yes, I know the secret that's within your mind. You think all the people who worship you are blind.
They just did something so amazing that even the stuff they did before that was a little experimental here and there, they really put it all on this album. And this is when drugs worked, you know? And later on, drugs don't work, you know? When you start doing drugs, it's awesome, and then later on, it backfires on you. At this point, drugs were fucking good for Black Sabbath. See, here's the thing that maybe you don't know, but it is the truth. A lot of people that were into Black Sabbath prior to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, they stop at Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. They think Sabotage, everything after sucks. They think Sabbath ended with Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I'm talking like the old school, really old people, you know? Like, I've heard this from many old people. They think that's where they never recovered from that album. That's their stopping point. But boy, I haven't stopped yet.
Sabotage, even though cracks are starting to appear in the band, they're starting to be a little bit more fun. The drugs are kind of starting to get to them. They took note and they decided to get more inspired and work together as a unit at full force for the last time. They still did 2 more albums with this lineup afterwards, but this was them at 100% for the last time. There's something to be said about that. Heavy as fuck. Some of the absolute, if not almost all my all-time favorite Sabbath songs on this album. I mean, Hole in the Sky, what a perfect way to open it. I know you said it's the hipster thing to say, but Megalomania is my favorite Sabbath song of all time.
my second favorite. It's my second favorite. If Children of the Grave did not exist, that'd be my favorite Sabbath song.
I love it so much because the lyrics are about like, people sing about like psychopaths and stuff like that. This song is about people that think that they're gods and stuff like that. They think they're superior beings. Megalomania is, it starts out like really melodic, almost like Ozzy is trying to fight these urges. But then he just goes into this crazy mental state throughout the rest of the song with the absolute greatest riff next to Children of the Grave. I got to give you that. Children of the Grave is the better riff, but that riff towards the end of the song onwards, especially when Ozzy says, "Suck me! Suck me!" There's not a more epic Black Sabbath song than Megalomania.
No matter what I say about every fucking album, there's something special with every album. Now, I'll admit, this to me is like they never bettered this after this. Even though I may prefer the two prior, but you know, it always taints it when you say, well, this is my favorite. Well, what about this one? Well, fuck, I have nothing bad to say about Sabotage. I can do without the red pants. You know. If that wasn't on the album cover, that'd be a wicked album cover too. I love that album cover. I love the fucking kimono Ozzy's wearing. It's like weird. And Tony sitting on the floor and the mirror, and it's just so wicked, you know. But the red pants ruin it all. You know? Not a bad song to be found. Even more experimental in parts like the Rit. You know, it's like it really goes out there. And but fuck, Symptom of the Universe. What they do, you know, like that's proto thrash, you know.
Take me through the centuries to supersonic years. Electrifying enemies drowning in his tears.
And from that, they go into this almost hippie shit to end the song. To me, still works. A lot of people are like, oh, I hate that part. It's like, fuck you, man. That part is like, it's like a fucking awesome movie with an amazing ending. Thrill of it all. You know, Super Czar, fucking the Rit. And what am I missing?
Am I Going Insane Radio, which is, a lot of people always thought the radio stood for radio edit. This is where it gets kind of weird though. They said it's actually a play on words of radio mental with radio rental. But I mean, I guess I just don't understand British humor. A lot of these, like, oh, the song's named after his beard. I mean, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. Thrill of It All has got to be one of the most underrated songs they've ever done. Same with the Rit. That's maybe the most underrated one right there. Written by Ozzy lyrically, a song about the record company at this time fucking them over. Not only they having issues with drugs, issues with each other a little bit are starting to bubble to the surface, but the record labels are just fuck with them. I mean, they had a person go up to them like a suit, run up to them on stage as they're playing and handed them what was called a writ, which is like a letter saying you're getting fucking sued. So, you know, that's great to hear while you're on stage playing the songs that you just wrote for that damn record company. So they were just getting screwed over left and right. I mean, they're like the biggest band at the time. They couldn't catch a fucking break. And if they did get any money, they're spending it all on coke. What we said here is actually not entirely true. Black Sabbath weren't being fucked over by the record company. Well, they were probably being fucked over by the record company. I mean, come on, it's a record company. But they were actually being sued by their, at the time, manager Patrick Meehan, because they tried to replace him with Don Arden, which we'll get to later. And because he was so pissed about that, he tried suing them vigorously.
But we were working on the road to pay lawyers' fees to keep the lawsuit going against the manager who was ripping us off. And I just said, hey man, well, I didn't get involved in this to become a damn lawyer.
Also, I want to make mention of how Ozzy's vocals on this are the best they'd ever been. I mean, He screams his ass off so much on this album that on the 2 albums after, when he tries to go high, not just when he's getting high, but when he tries to go high vocally, I mean, it cracks really bad sometimes. And you can tell that this album really fucked them up.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Symptom of the Universe. I would sing that. It's just insane. But to me, the most fucking wicked part, hands down, of Sabotage is the way Am I Going Insane ends, and you hear that wicked screaming. It sounds like some guy is being tortured. It's so evil sounding. And going into that quiet bass, that right there, that, again, hair standing up, just talking about it. That right there is the greatest section of Sabotage. And probably, for my money, the most scariest thing they ever put on tape was that. It's just so fucking badass.
Super Czar, probably, in my opinion, the best Tony Iommi instrumental, because the riff he wrote for is just so gigantic. I mean, it's comparable to like the Hellion. I think, although Hole in the Sky's awesome, I think they should have had this like right before Hole in the Sky, because it screams intro, and they open a lot of the shows with it over like the PAs and stuff like that. For the recording of Super Czar, the English Chamber Choir was brought in to do the chanting, and when Ozzy walked into the studio and he saw them, he thought he was in the wrong studio and left. So, Blow on the Jug is this little hidden track at the end of the writ, as if the album wasn't already as awesome. They have a couple seconds of a really quiet song build in and then fade out of Bill Ward and Ozzy Osbourne fucking around on a piano doing like a old-timey bar dancey type of song. They didn't even know what they put on the album. Bill Ward's like, what the fuck, that's on there? Why would they do that? It's only on some versions, though.
That's true, because when I bought mine in the early 80s, it didn't bring that. I didn't know about Blow the Jug until the internet age. Sabotage was the worst selling album they'd made up to that point. And it really affected their judgment on the next few albums, which is unfortunate, because imagine if that album would have been huge and they would have stick to that formula for the next two, it would have been just amazing what could have been.
But the fact is that success does change you. I mean, when you're hungry, you all have one goal to have, and that is to get successful. Now, when you get successful, it affects various... I mean, it affected me. I didn't give a shit. I was full of cocaine and all the rest of the crap that I used to do, you know? So, I mean, that stuff makes you talk total horse crap, you know? The amount of... there shouldn't be a problem in the world, because I think we solved them all in a bathroom of a hotel with a bag of that white powder, you know?
Tony Iommi was getting super pissed at having to do all the production and recording and writing work, and he was really starting to have issues with everyone in the band, especially Ozzy, who contributed the least amount to the music.
While they were recording in Criteria Studio, the Eagles were there recording Hotel California, and they always had to stop recording because Sabbath was way too loud.
The artwork on this is, I guess... an artist rendition of robots fucking on an escalator.
Well, actually, what I understand, that was Ozzy's interpretation of it. Ozzy said, it looks like two robots fucking on an escalator. I remember reading that, and, you know, you look at that album cover, yeah, it kind of looks like two robots fucking on an escalator.
Technical Ecstasy, I used to fucking hate this album with every fiber of my being, but now I love it with almost every fiber of my being.
This is kind of like their sellout album in a way, even though Black Sabbath is not capable of selling out, but that was their best attempt and they failed at it because it's still fucking classic. It's great. It's my least favorite of the 70s stuff, but I think it's awesome. It's a great listen to put it on, you know. I mean, yeah, there's 2 songs I dislike on it, but for the rest of it, top-notch shit, man. And again, it's Sabbath showing that they could be chameleons, and I think they're very overlooked at being chameleons, because when you think of Black Sabbath, you think of doom and gloom, but, you know, the only doom and gloom I hear on this album is the intro to You Can't Change Me. You know, the rest is kind of like, you know, keyboardy, weirdy shit, but I think this album's very unique, and Ozzy hates it. Tony
Doesn't he
Iommi,
also hate Never Say Die?
he hates Never Say Die as well, yes.
Dirty Women is classic. Gypsy's really badass and underrated. You have the really unique song with Bill Ward for the first time doing vocals. It's actually him this time on It's Alright, doing the piano as well.
I think that maybe It's Alright was influenced by Beth.
It kind of sounds like the same type of thing, yeah.
You know, it's the drummer in the band doing a ballad, and it worked for Kiss, so maybe they tried to do it, and it was around the same time.
A lot of people are missing like the heavy songs, like the doomy songs, but man, the first two songs on here, you have a fast, heavy chugger, fucking Backstreet Kids. It's one of their heaviest chugging songs. I mean, it's like a sequel to like Children of the Grave. It's kick ass.
Dirty Women was the first song I ever heard off the album, because back in the day, there used to be a show called Night Flight on the USA Network where they showed the live Hammersmith footage of them doing Dirty Women, and that's the first time I ever heard that song, anything off the sound other than Rock and Roll Doctor live. And I was like, wow, that's a cool song. I got to get this Technical Ecstasy album. And that's what spurred me to get it. And what Tony does at the end of Dirty Women is just amazing. And it really has this flow of like 2 hours before dawn, out there looking for a hooker. Not that I would know anything about that, but it does have that kind of menacing dirtbag feel to it, of a guy that just wants to find a hooker at 4 or 5 in the morning. I mean, at this point, everybody was looking at Black Sabbath as this is a band on their way out. And during this tour, they were touring with AC/DC. Malcolm hated Geezer Butler. I mean, hated him. And there was a lot of conflict on the tour. And they were kind of like, oh, this fucking band's on their way out. We're up and coming. And there was a night they were at a bar, and Geezer had one of those switchblades, but it was like a switchblade that wasn't a blade. It was a comb. And he pointed it at Malcolm, and that made it even worse. Malcolm got super pissed about that, and it wasn't the most harmonious tour. You know, here they are in Miami, you know, recording in Miami, and, you know, you got hot girls over here, great weather, and, you know, I think they were just, it was, and it shows in the music, too, you know, it's kind of like, it's not, you know, so dark and shit. It's probably the lightest shaded album from the 70s.
At this time, Ozzy was getting so messed up on drugs and alcohol, he actually checked himself in to the Stafford County Asylum.
We went through a couple of stages with Ozzy. One time I think he wanted to leave, and he left, and then came back, and then he wanted to leave again.
So Ozzy came back, and we did the Never Say Die album. And as we were doing it, I just knew that it's the end. Probably won't even get through the album, never mind another tour. You just could feel it that we needed a change somehow, somewhere. There was going to be a change soon.
In between here, there was more turmoil. Ozzy was even out of the band for a little bit, and they got a guy for just the demo of Junior's Eyes, which Ozzy would later completely redo, and it sounded like a completely different song.
They actually went on a TV show with Dave Walker and played Junior's Eyes. And that footage, man, I've never seen, but you can hear the audio of that footage on YouTube, and it's just terrible. I hate it, man. And at this time, I mean, actually, you know, Ozzy was kicked out of the band after Never Say Die, but before Never Say Die, he actually quit the band. And he started his own band, the Blizzard of Oz, and it just didn't work out. Ozzy came back for whatever reason, and he said, I am not singing this guy's lyrics. So Ozzy's dad recently died, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe either he wrote the lyrics about his father or Geezer wrote the lyrics about his father. But those lyrics are about his father that just passed away. And Never Say Die is the very first Black Sabbath album I bought that was a new release. Because I bought, the only thing I bought before that was We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. So I bought that actually when it was new. And I guess that makes it more special to me. It's kind of like a timeline is everything type thing. And this is the album I listen to the most out of all the Sabbath albums. This is one that does not have any hint of Burnout Factor. The song we just talked about, Junior's Eyes, is so good. It's like my favorite track, but man, a very close second is Air Dance. Air Dance is...
See, most people that hate the album will even say like Air Dance and Junior's Eyes. Those are the stands. To me, Junior's Eyes, the best one. I mean, although Ozzy's vocals are getting a little blown out, on this, he gives it his all. It's so melodic. It's so fantastic. There's some really weird rockin' songs in here. I mean, you got Shockwave. I always really liked Hard Road. It's the only song to have all members on vocals, doing backing vocals along with Ozzy, including Tony Iommi.
Oh, the abysmal instrumental on the album. Fuck, do I hate Breakout. I cannot stand Breakout. Saxophone with Black Sabbath, fuck you. But believe me, so many people are like, because when I did the review on that album, boy, I got attacked viciously from Breakout fans. Talking about shit's great, but dude, that shit just goes on forever, same riff over and over, and then they throw saxophone toward the end. It's like, oh my god, you're making it even worse for me. And then it bleeds into an amazing final track, which again features Bill Ward's amazing vocals. Swinging the Chain rules. Ozzy hated the song. I ain't singing this shit. He said, fuck it, Bill, you do it.
It's weird, though, that they end the last album with the original lineup with a song that doesn't have Ozzy on vocals. But I guess it's a great way to have a send-off to Bill Ward because he would never return with this original lineup. The album cover for Never Say Die was actually originally supposed to have the album cover for what became Rainbow's Difficult to Cure, with the doctors standing in front of, the point of view of you. Now they have airplane pilots. Kind of doesn't make any sense. They probably should have went with the album cover that went to Difficult to Cure, because Never Say Die makes a lot more sense with them trying to revive someone as doctors and stuff like that. I don't know. This makes no sense as the album cover at all.
True, but I love that album cover. It's freaky. Those pilots with those weird masks and little tubes. It is weird, and also, you look at the back album cover and it shows kind of like the pilot flying a plane. It looks kind of like a kamikaze mission. It's like Never Say Die. I don't know. In an offhanded way, I see the title fit those weird looking pilots. It is weird looking, but in a way it's kind of spooky too. It was recorded in Canada, very cold. Ozzy was super pissed recording under those conditions, because he said, the band wanted to do that there because the Rolling Stones recorded an album there. And that's the only reason they did it over there. So going from sunny Miami, Florida to like an icebox in winter in Canada was not like the greatest move to keep Ozzy very interested. But I think Ozzy sounds great on the album. I think he does sound fine. And,
I do too. But although Ozzy was not necessarily as interested, he hated these albums, he was actually now at this point kicked out of Sabbath
by a bunch of coke fiends for being too much of a coke fiend. That says a lot. I mean, Tony Iommi says, "Get the fuck out of my band. You're stinking the place up." I mean, you must be really fucked up.
Yeah, those guys were all fucked up, but you know, I really do believe Tony just had this fucking chip on his shoulder with Ozzy though, for a while, and he made poor Bill Ward do it. You know, fire Ozzy, and you know, and Ozzy basically like kind of didn't give a fuck though at the time. Look, whatever, like he already quit the band already.
And it just wasn't working. Things just wasn't happening. We ended up recording for rehearsing for 11 months, and nothing was coming up.
We would write a song, book a studio, and try and finish the album in a studio, which is just total crap to me, you know. I don't like being in a studio.
So we'd come up with plenty of riffs and stuff, but there was no enthusiasm. So it just had to come to an end, and we had to have a talk, so it's not going to happen.
I wanted to do something aside from Sabbath. Not saying that I was any better than Sabbath. I just had this thing that I had to vent my thing and do something what I wanted to do, you know? So I said to Tony, and he says, well, if you've got any ideas, you should put them to the band, because we're a band, you know. It'd be great if I come up with something and didn't give it to you guys. And then I said, oh, fair enough, then okay. What do you think about this? Don't like it. What do you think about this? Don't like it. What do you think about this? Don't like it. What do you think about this? And so on. No, I didn't like anything. So here am I. I'm still frustrated. I don't like what I've done. They said, tell me that if I've got any ideas, you should give to the band. I've given them to the band. They don't like it, so I'm still in the same hole. But now I'm more frustrated because I've got this desire to do a solo album.
Ozzy went because he just like totally lost interest in anything that we were doing at the time, and hardly ever turned up for rehearsals. And we went over to America to start the Heaven and Hell album. They turned up about a month later, and he just wasn't into it, so we needed to get on with writing the album.
It was the most saddest time. It was me that talked to Ozzy and said, you know, a decision's been made to move on without you. He knew anyway. You know, he's pretty smart, you know.
But Ozzy was on his way to death. You know, he was all fucked up, locked himself in a Hollywood hotel. Some guy came by one day, gave him $500, say, hey, look, give this to your manager's daughter. And Ozzy got, oh yeah, sure. And he went and bought cocaine and pizza with it. And she saw the way the condition he was living, but she knew Ozzy all those years, and she, you know, basically said this was the best thing Sharon did. This was good Sharon. Before she became evil, she slapped Ozzy into shape and made him a superstar. She saved his life.
And after Ozzy, the most iconic metal singer of all time, got kicked out, what are they going to do? Other than get the second most iconic metal singer of all time, arguably, the guy that, you know, obviously you got Ozzy inventing the headbang. Well, this motherfucker came in and invented the horns and some of the greatest lyrics of all time. We'll get to that in part 2.
Subscribe to the Downfall Network.